gentlemen, live from the broken down, low rent, sleazy, double greasy pirate radio Nut Hut Studios, it's time for the very first ever Southern.
DPR Street Gang, this is Almighty. Standing by, over. DPR Street Gang, this is Almighty. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines,
clocks run out, time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
It's Monday night. My name's Jimmy. Welcome. We're going to be talking about the repopulation after the Great Reset. The orphan trains. Into the microcosm is on the air.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Outside the limit of our sight, feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners. Our owners. They have us. They control us. Sleep. Feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth.
Epic Journeyman. Are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Well, another one bites the dust, man. Another day ground to dust in the wasteland. Man.
For some people, it's the shortest day, right? I mean, it's already the winter solstice in half the world right now.
Is it now?
It happens during the show, actually. Well, I mean, the day starts for us on the West Coast.
Well, so much magic happens during the show. Like this year, we're going to be live on Christmas Eve. We're going to be live on New Year's Eve. We're going to be live all over the place, man. So I'm looking forward to that because this will be the first midnight at New Year's Eve we've ever had in the 6 years we've been doing the show. Never fallen just on that particular note. So and you know, it's the wild ride tonight, you know, and that means Dr. Rho should be joining us pretty quick here. I think I don't know where he is right now, but I think he's on his way. I think I do see something moving, but I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what happened, but anyhow, in any event, it's into the microcosm. And, tonight we're kind of going to be going and getting back to just touching a little bit more on what we were talking about on Friday night. If you missed that, we were looking at World's Fairs. And one of the things that, became really obvious to me, Epic Journeyman, was the World's Fair where they were introducing these baby incubators. I said to myself, that's a thing. That's an invention. I get it, but I mean, they made a big deal out of it, didn't they? With these baby incubators.
Right. Which year was that one? Do you recall? I don't recall what year that was.
I don't remember, but we'll get into it. I'll bring it more to the forefront as we get further on down the road. But which was with the reason that I started to look at this in the first place was because, where did all these orphans come from all of a sudden? There just seemed to be like right in this period of time, okay, the late 1800s, early 1900s. All of a sudden, there's like 30,000 orphans in New York City alone by itself. And the thing is, if I was an immigrant and I was coming here from someplace else and I arrived and I saw that Statue of Liberty and I'd gone to Ellis Island and I thought to myself, oh, here I am, the land of the free, home of the brave. There's a Statue of Liberty waving me on in. Come on in, be free. That Statue of Liberty might have been there way before there was ever any land of the free, home of the brave. That might just been what they called it to get a bunch of people to want to come over here and populate this place with a bunch of children almost. I mean, because they're putting them here before they even get started. So they don't have a, idea of what the history is. They don't know. They can't put their finger on it. They don't know what the hell's happening. Neither did I. Uh-oh. I see somebody over there in the green room, man. He is cool, man. You gotta say. Man. When it's the Rose Wild Ride.
Ho, ho, ho!
How many girls you got stuffed into that thing, man? Oh, wow, look at the champagne is spilling everywhere. Dr. Rho, man, you really know how to make an entrance, man.
My ho-ho-hos.
Ho-ho-ho. Yeah, man. Yeah, baby. Ho-ho-ho. So,
Ho-hos with me.
how you been, man? I just realized this weekend, I just realized that I'm looking at all this information about these cathedrals worldwide, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and I all of a sudden dawned on me that I live next to one of the biggest. I live next to one of the biggest possible representations of what it is we're talking about, which was we talked a little bit about San Francisco and people being shanghaied over here to dig the place out, get it all tidied up for that World's Fair, man. You know what I'm saying, Doc? What do you think about this, man? We're coming to town tonight with some information. We're armed, we're ready. But I mean,
there were, you were talking about incubators, but there were also trains that went into the heartland of America, the farms, and they would literally stop at the stations and have these kids stand lined up, and you could come and fill out the adoption paperwork right there. And a lot of people were you get you adopt a child, so you're helping a child, and also that's an extra family member to help on the farm, and back then you could use an extra farm hand. So a lot of these children were, some were young enough where they may not have remembered in adulthood, the particulars of their childhood. So they basically take on the family, they assimilate into the families that adopt them. And for all intents and purposes, they become, part of that family's history, and are lost into the history of the family. I don't know how many people might have like a grandma, great-great-grandma, or great-great-grandfather, where their history is a little cloudy, and information just wasn't there. They didn't keep records. There's rumors of this or that or whatnot, but we don't know, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people like that have these members of the family that just we don't have any information. There's rumors. And then there was also in the UK, there were some weird anomalies with trains. They actually had a necropolis station where they put the dead bodies on the trains, but that's another subject. But
the thing is that number one, it appears to me, that rails were definitely used in the old world. So rails were being used for sure. Now, there's a particular story, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's called The Smoky God. And this is an account of a man and his son who leave out on a journey in their little boat, and they end up inside the earth. And one of the things that they notice when they're in there, as part of the story, is that the people are real big. These people pull up on a ship, a giant, ocean-faring vessel, and these are giant people. Giants, and they see mammoth walking around on the land, woolly mammoth. They were then taken onto this ship and then brought to the city area. And in this city area, they're made aware of this train system. Now, it's not running on tracks nor like we would see, but it is utilizing some method where it floats off the tracks, and so it's something that they bring up in the story, the Smoky God. You can find that, you can get the PDF of that. It's supposedly an actual account from the son, who related to a writer down in Los Angeles. Point being is that the old world technology seems to be in line with some of these stories that we've heard about the inner earth people. And that would also, to me, make sense because maybe at some point, this reset, when the reset happens, is when people seem to want to go underground. And maybe when some of these original things happened, people went underground and just basically stayed there for the most part. Who knows? I don't know. I'm, obviously just, imagining what's possible, based on some of the things I've seen. Now, Epic Journeyman, as far as these, for example, one of the fairs, there was a 33 track or a 34 track rail system, supposedly, that was built and brought in. Supposedly they built a rail system across the United States of America in a certain amount of time. Somehow these ragtag
amazing construction, done in this.
Somehow these ragtag slaves and China people from China and Irishmen, somehow they were able to build bridges and dig out tunnels and just unimaginable feats of engineering that went on in getting from coast to coast with that rail system, Mr. Rho? What do you think about that, man? Do you think that's possible with the, say, some of the, I mean, you would say that the United States in the early 1800s, going into the 1900s, was sparsely populated, wouldn't you?
Did you know that there's a lot of evidence that suggests that there was a, like people have heard about the race of giants, the red-headed giants, excuse me, and the giants that existed here before the Native Americans, the tribal people that were here recently. But there was also a race of Pygmies. And these Pygmies were here alongside of several races, including the Crow tribe. In fact, the Crow Indian race talk about the Pygmies that lived in lands that were not too far away from them, and they specifically said that they stayed away from them. They stayed out of the Pygmy lands. There's some speculation that it was because these Pygmies, notwithstanding that they were short in stature, but they had very sharp teeth, they were cannibalistic, and they were very fierce, which, may lead to your extinction if you're a very aggressive type of tribe and other folks come along and determine that you're a threat to their existence. This is probably what happened to the giants. The Pygmies were another race that were wiped out. Their descendants can be found in Africa still to this day. They only grow, they're normal while in childhood, but they miss that final growth spurt that everybody gets. And so they only grow to like 4 feet something. But their ancestors that lived here in the Americas were reportedly very, very fierce.
Well, over the past week, I've seen a bunch of photographs of the giants that were here in America. And it's funny because they hold their arm out, one arm out, and then so you can see how far away their arm is from the top of everybody's heads. And when you look at these buildings, these doorways, and the amount of head space that's been put into these buildings that we've used up, I mean, you can see clearly it makes no sense to build that much head space for people that are only 6 feet tall.
Have you ever seen those big books they found?
Yeah.
These huge books.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
Takes 4 guys to turn the page, right?
It does.
Yeah, some of them are literally 5 feet high. I mean, they're huge. They're like for somebody that's big.
Well, I'm interested because I think that, listen, if I was part of the master race that hides in my hole because I know when something's going to happen, when I came back out, I would want to populate this country over here where there was no people. I want to stick a bunch of orphans over there so they grow up over here. You look back in this country around the 1900s, early 1900s, and look at what kids were doing. Well, you look at how they were working. Kids were in every single job there was. There was no place where children did not work. Eventually, they came up with laws that said,
Yeah, maybe, that pretty much built this country. Maybe we ought to, I'm just kidding. Maybe we ought to go back to that. Kids, they don't want to go to school. They don't need school. They're not learning anything in school anyway. They're just indoctrination centers. Better we just put them to work.
Exactly.
I mean,
Why
kids
don't we?
want to grow up fast anyway. They get involved in all these adult things.
That's right.
They can make all these adult decisions. I think, hey, open up the factories. Let's
There we
put them to
go.
work.
The 8-year-olds were smoking cigarettes, man, and standing around shooting dice on the corner, selling newspapers. They asked them, where do you live? They go, I don't live anywhere. I live right here.
Wherever I am.
That's right. But I'm just saying, listen, there's this sword tonight, this Into the Microcosm blade tonight is a two-edged sword, man. Because we're not just talking about what may or may not have happened in the Great Reset. We're talking about orphans, man. We're talking about orphan trains, and you guys want to, and people want to talk right now about one of the biggest things on people's mind is child trafficking. Well, let me just point you out to something here, man. This child trafficking has been going on since the beginning. Okay? These routes, these child trafficking things are established, man. Listen. How does a young kid know what happened to their parents? What if you were just 5 years old and I came to you and I pulled you in a room and I said, well, real sorry to tell you, the epic German, but your mom and dad, they didn't make it.
Giants.
They didn't make it. But listen, don't worry, because we got a place for you, man. We got some place to send you. Because, I was watching this thing yesterday. A lady wrote a book about it. She wasn't doing anything conspiratorial about it. She wasn't getting weird on it. She was just doing the story about it. And she told a story about how people would just go, I want a blonde-haired, curly-haired, blue-eyed boy. And they would send a letter. And then the train would come, and your curly-haired, blue-eyed boy would arrive. Okay, I'm finding it kind of weird to have a guy on a History Channel special saying stuff like, there was 30,000 orphans in New York City. Where did they come from? Where did they come from exactly? Where did they come from, man? Were they somewhere in incubators? Was there a baby factory somewhere? Were they just churning these kids out? I don't know, man. I don't know.
But it wasn't just America. Like we said, London and all the people Shanghai and the kids in China that were brought over when they were kids.
That's what I'm saying.
All the indigenous people who were, wiped out in the wild, basically, they were all taken in and sent off to orphanages, and they ended up going to work someplace and never seen again for the most part, a lot of them. So, yeah, there's a whole history of that. That's interesting that the 1939 World Fair in New York is where the incubator came out. I had to go look that up, obviously. And it was only 7 years before that Brave New World came out and talked about people being raised in incubators. And one has to wonder about this premise, because this is the exact thing that the Nazis proposed doing, which happened, it was 4 months into the World Fair, went into 1940, when this all started. And they had to take some of the Axis exhibits out, because the countries got invaded and stuff, right? But it was an American guy. He had the incubators going, and he had a whole operation going there and saved all kinds of kids' lives. And they had wet nurses and manned it all up, and it cost $9 a day to keep the kids alive. They were put in incubators, and they were doing it all from this place in New York. And there's a picture of it I linked in the chat on the YouTube channel. And if you look at it, you'll see that it's a pretty big evolution that they got going on. And you have to wonder if this is something they tried out somewhere else, because you could definitely make a case that it was already well developed at the time.
Yeah, that's
it was
what I'm
just
saying.
shown for the first time here.
Maybe they had another place wherever these families go when this happens. They were there. They have a place. They had a whole bunch. They were just breeding these kids, man. They're just
Snatching
breeding
them
them.
out of others.
Yeah.
Maybe they were snatching them from the wombs prematurely. That's why they needed incubators. And then put them in there and transfer them. And who knows what happened to the breeder mothers.
Exactly. And
a lot of them might have even been prostitutes or something, especially in London at the time or something. And then they were doing a service basically, and those people ended up working for the company or for the factory or for the royals, whatever it might be, right? I mean, some of these people you look at over history, like the guards, the Vatican guards, amazing. They know like 12 languages and go through all this stuff, incredibly smart,
Dude.
But how many of those back in the day were bred for that?
Listen, I sent you guys an 8th grade test from 1895. Now, I sent it to you for a reason, because I'll tell you right now, for the most part, I would guarantee you most people would not pass this test.
Right.
But I want to point out, we're going to get into some of it, because I want to point out how they were educating these new children that were being shipped out on these trains. That these one-room schoolhouses, they weren't just, they weren't just out there, teaching them 1 + 1 = 2. These people were being taught. The farmhouse schoolhouse was not, by any stretch of the imagination, easy, but for anybody. It was hard. That's why a lot of people didn't pass. A lot of people couldn't get out of the 8th grade.
Like a crash course in everything.
Exactly. It is a well-rounded education, and like I said, you're just growing up, man. You don't know what happened. You know what I mean? You're being taught right now from scratch. So if a whole generation of orphans is being used to populate up the United States of America, the buildings and everything that were already existing here, that still existed from whatever the reset is, from whatever happened, it's there, and they know it's there, and they start sending people here. They say, "Oh yeah, come on over, America. It's the free." You go ahead.
That was the first reset. We're moving into a second reset.
Exactly.
And now we also have another. This one is a little bit more creepy because there is a whole set of new babies they're not orphans, but they're coming out with these interesting characteristics. Have you seen some of these new babies that are coming out?
I did. And
talking about with the weird eyes.
Yes, I have. And they're a little bigger. Yeah, they're bigger.
Yeah, they never cry. They don't show emotion. They seem to observe. Like they showed this one baby, and he never cries, but he's always moving around. He's always curious, and they just stare. And their eyes, their pupils, some of them were completely black, and it's just kind of eerie. I mean,
it's weird, man.
It's alive, right? The movie It's Alive.
I'd be like, I'd be like feeling like maybe a male cat. I mean, I'd be like, is this something that we need around here? I mean, I hate to put it that way, but my instinct would just be like, this is not normal, and it's disturbing me. Which is basically the instinct that I get when I see some of these. Not all of them.
It's
because we know what a newborn baby should look like. I mean, they all look like Winston Churchill for a few days, and then you start to develop their little personalities, and they're all beautiful and unique. But some of these new ones coming out, they call them the pandemic babies. There's something different about these. And even the mothers are saying that. They're like, oh, this is a whole different one. They're like, I have two, and if I'd known that they'd be like this, I never would have had.
I saw one that was supposedly, it was only a couple months old, and it was wearing 1-year-old diapers already.
Yeah,
So
they develop very quickly. They're different attributes. Some of them have these. They're physically able to, propel themselves and climb things very quick. Some are able to walk. So who knows whether they're attributes, and if this is just the first generation of some new hybrid that is being introduced into, the species or into.
Well, you look at the faces of some of these kids, man, and they look like they're 20 years old. You know what I mean? And I gotta say, man, I mean, listen, these places where these giant buildings and these giant cities where they are, you see the pictures of people.
Yeah.
There's no people, man. Why would you have all that for no people? Why? And the other thing is too. Let's ask this question. We're getting ready to go to break here, top of the hour here. But why are, when you think of cathedrals, everybody thinks of cathedrals. They think of Europe. But people don't realize, man, there's cathedrals all over the world, man. And I mean, they're everywhere. They're all over Africa. They are literally everywhere. All they did was come up to these places and put a cross on them and call them cathedrals and make everybody think that they went around building that stuff. They didn't go build that. They put a cross on it. Go ahead.
These are cathode rails. That they I do believe the theory that they are created to harness the etheric energy of the universe around us. In the atmosphere, there is etheric energy that can be harnessed, and they were probably used in conjunction with organs to get sustenance and healing by having groups of people come in and sitting down, and the organs would change the vibration with the harnessing of the etheric energy, and this enabled them to not have to eat. They could actually take in sustenance, and that was where we got the gathering in the cathode rails, the gathering in the cathedrals, and we changed it into like a big church thing.
Yeah, because they had to have a reason that there was some force out there that went around building this stuff. Because the thing is, you couldn't have a bunch of those being separate. You know what I mean? Like one of them was this and one of them was that. The fact that they put a cross on every single one of them gives it validity, or why it was everywhere, because you have to say there was a crusade. Okay, this crusade that happened is what they tell everybody. But do we know the crusade even happened?
Yeah, instead they just had these things everywhere because everybody on the planet at that time knew how to harness the etheric energy.
Exactly. And that's the thing that a lot of they make a point on, is that they talk about, I mean, and this really struck me too as a really important thing, clue, is the headspace inside of each of these buildings. Because that amount of headspace with no actual reason for it except for it to be there. In other words, it costs a lot of money to put up 40 feet of building that have no purpose whatsoever. Why would you do it? Especially when you're looking around, you're seeing dudes with wooden wheelbarrows and like being pulled by horses. There is absolutely no way those buildings were built by people in those times, period. There ain't, I mean, I'd like to see somebody prove that show me the money, man. Because
have you ever seen the intricacy of some of the carvings in some of these buildings or cathedrals?
Mm-hmm.
Like way up on the roof, far, far away, that you couldn't even possibly hardly focus on with the naked eye. You know, every little flower is unique up in this, and the theory has it that they're not there for, you know, aesthetic purposes.
No.
They're there for functionality in the harmonization of vibrations.
It's the 3 doors, the columns, and the flower window, the round flower window that seems to be on a lot of these. All right, we got to go to the break. We'll be right back. Send the microcosm. That's Dr. Rho, Epic Journeyman, myself, and you guys. We're here, and let's get it on, man. Aftermath FM.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
'Tis the season, and to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades beguiles all concepts of our reality. After 23 years, John has finally told his whole story. The story of Stardust Ranch transcends its geography and John and Joyce Edmonds themselves. It becomes a story for the human race at a very important time in our journey as people on this planet. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle.
Monday through Friday. It's the after part of the underground, the alternative to the alternative. This ain't your granddaddy's late night. No.
Now there's a cloud over heaven and the pain out of paradise.
Frozen in time once again. I moved too fast and the ether could not keep up.
Does it feel like it's colder in your corner of the world? They're screaming sanctuary. They're screaming at you. Lock up the walls. Lock up the walls. Lock up the walls. Lock up the walls.
Townspeople would have stopped what they were doing to watch. Shop owners would have stood in their doorways as the locomotive slowed near the depot. A notice placed in the Hopkinton newspaper days earlier had described the upcoming arrival of a company of orphan children. It said, "The object of the coming of these children is to find homes in your midst, especially among farmers, where they may enjoy a happy and wholesome family life, where kind care, good example, and moral training will fit them for a life of self-support and usefulness." Inside the train that day, 8 children would have peered out the windows, wondering about this place so far from New York. The group soon made its way off the train and down the block to the Hotel Hopkinton. After changing into the finer clothes they had been given, they were escorted to the nearby Masonic Lodge, where a group had gathered to see the children being offered. The boys and girls were asked to stand and sing a
Wait, hang on a second. Let me hold on a minute. Hold on. Let's play that again.
After changing into the finer clothes they had been given, they were escorted to the nearby Masonic Lodge, where a group had gathered to see the children being offered. The boys and girls were asked to stand and sing a song, recite poetry, anything that might endear them to the crowd. By the time the gathering had ended, each of the 8 children had gone home with a different set of strangers. Between 1854 and 1929, this scene played out many times across the United States, particularly in the Midwest. These trips, which essentially amounted to the resettlement of 250,000 children, were later collectively described as the orphan train movement.
Okay, man. 250,000 orphans.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, check this out.
Dude.
It totally makes me think of. I know you didn't watch Star Wars, but Dr. Rho will get this. The Jawas with the droids, where they go up and they offer them to the different bar. You know what I mean? Exactly like that. They have to recite, lyrics and poetry, and like almost like exactly like that. Yeah, in a Masonic lodge too, like the good
Oh man,
threw that one in there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it wasn't, maybe because if you look even today, the Brotherhood of the Masons are heavily involved in children's activities as far as, I think they even have an ID system that they put out there. It was like an ID, to ID your child. You can take a look at that.
Yeah, the Freemasons are doing that now. All the fairs, ironically, all the fairs, like the summer fairs in different cities and stuff. Del Mar Fair in San Diego, for example, all over. They have that ID your kid, find your kid location system that they're promoting.
Right. Exactamundo. So this is it's kind of tied into the thing that the Mormons were doing too. But then I guess the Mormons were started by a Mason, so that might have something to do with it.
Through your local Rotary Club.
Hey, listen, let me ask you a question. Now, I wasn't even bringing that up. I mean, I didn't even realize that was where these children were going at this particular train with these 8 children. I didn't realize that's where they were going, but it kind of ties into what we were saying the other night about there being a certain group that knows what's going to happen before it happens. And they're involved in exactly to re-educate and populate these areas after what happens. And you just kind of pick up where you left off with some dirty-faced orphans.
I see some parallels here with what happened after supposedly the fall of Tartaria.
Exactly.
That there was a group, like in this case the Jesuits, that seemed to, for whatever reason, seemed to have a little bit more knowledge than everybody else. And they kind of distributed that knowledge. And we, that's where the root is. They basically came up with, they created the history that we know.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah. That's what we were saying Friday night. We were saying, it's not that they invented electricity. They just knew that you were going to have it. And then they just released it one day. Hey, look at this electricity. Come on down.
And don't we see that kind of stuff happening even to this day?
We do. It's the same group. The same group.
Stuff just gets released, and at this time now we've got the Davos group, and they're talking about this reset, and I think that there have been several resets.
Me too.
And I was, a flash came into my head. I don't know if you heard this. I posted it in our chat room, but there's this Irish priest and a translation about things to come, and it's pretty dark, but in it he talks about a meteor strike that. And I remember, a flash in my head came to the meteor strike from I think it's either Arizona or New Mexico. That crater down there, and we were told that something like that happened, a long time ago, thousands and thousands, whatever years ago. What if it didn't happen so long ago?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think. I think our current situation is maybe 300-400 years old at the most.
Yeah.
And I think everything else has been piped in and taught to us by, like I said, I mean, these people, for whatever reason, there were no parents to these people.
And you would think somebody would know, some child would have memory, somebody would be old enough. But when you think about it, like I posed the question to all of you people out there that have been adopted, do you remember your birth parents? And if you were adopted at a very young age, probably not. If you were adopted at before 1 or 2 years old, you probably don't have any memory of your real parents.
And let's just imagine. Okay, let's just imagine. From right now, from what we know at the deep underground bases, we can extrapolate out that down there in that deep underground base, you could literally be test tubing babies out and cranking them out into these incubators and just churning them out, man. Just churning out 1 or 2 year olds. And if you look back at the movie Metropolis, man.
What if you're churning out these little test tube babies, right? And you put something in them that will be activated, let's say 25 years later. It lies dormant. Something lies dormant within someone until it's needed, until it's called up.
Don't you see how they only kept them just as smart as they needed them to be for that period of time? In other words, okay, hey, it's the Industrial Revolution, man. Come on down. You know what I mean? Come on into New York City, man. It's all. Where did those cities come from? I don't see. Have you seen any photographs at all of New York City with no high rises and just one high rise? Like there's the first one. Oh, there's the second one. There's a third one. Oh, there's a fourth one. Oh, look at now. There's a whole skyline. I have not seen that. What I have seen though is a bunch of wreckage, man. Even so late as the 70s, there was places on the East Coast that were literally piles of brick and garbage and steel laying around. What about this other thing? What about this? Have you heard about this? This is some of the explanation for the destruction in the New York City area was that there was a giant explosion from leftover munitions from World War I that are being stored there. Come on, man. Let me ask you a question. Most Americans have never even heard of the explosion of the World War I munitions in New York.
Long time.
Have you guys ever heard of a place called Port Chicago?
No.
I live just not too far from it. What it is, it's used today. It's a naval weapons station, and it's part of the Pacific Fleet logistics group. And it's just here on the Carquinez Strait here in Northern California in the Bay Area. I've been out there a few times, but interestingly enough, there is a story about an explosion that occurred at Port Chicago that rocked this area back in I think it was in the 40s. And it might have been earlier than that, but the rumor has it that was actually one of the first non-documented or non-official nuclear explosion, that it was actually a nuclear blast of some sort, a tactical nuclear weapon of some sort. And you can look that up, the explosion of Port Chicago, California. Yeah, it just brings that to mind out here. There's, in fact, they used to keep docked right out near there. You used to be able to see them from the bridge, was the mothball fleet. And in the mothball fleet they had the USS Iowa after it got hit. And a lot of these old naval ships that were ready to be either broken down to scrap or recommissioned. And sitting out in the middle of nowhere, all by itself, was a special ship that they called the Howard Hughes ship. And it was built for one task, and it was a spy ship, and its main thing was submarine recovery and submersible recovery. And they used to have that thing, armed guard would be on that ship, and it'd be out there all alone. I remember we'd drive by on the bridge, you could look out and see it just sitting out there all by itself, the Howard Hughes ship. A little bit of trivia about the area. Anyway, back to you.
Well, yeah, this area is one of the key areas in this reconstruction process after whatever the reset is, whatever the mechanism is. Now there's examples around the world of some of these monoliths. The one in Mexico is the one that comes to mind for me, but there's a temple down in Mexico when the sun's in a certain place, the rays shine right on this particular area, which illuminates this snake. And I can't think of what the name of the temple is. Maybe Epic German. But so that when this reset happens, whatever it is, that is something that happens cyclically, and they know when it's going to happen. And so there are mechanisms like clocks or like hourglass type scenarios that in certain parts of the world, in certain temples, when this reset thing, whatever it is, gets ready to happen, the beams of light will shine on certain objects inside rooms. For example, the top of an obelisk will be lit by this beam of the sun, and that signifies you have X amount of time before this is going to happen. And this is when these bloodline families all go underground. This thing happens, they wait, they come out, and then they do the same thing over and over and over again. They take ownership of everything that they had before and everything that they didn't have, and then they establish it with a new story for that particular group of people that's being born at that time to make sense.
New epoch.
Exactly. Exactamundo.
There's a couple of those temples of the sun. One's at Teotihuacan in Mexico, the pyramid, right? Of the sun, the sun and the moon. And the other one's in Machu Picchu. There's one in Cusco also, but the one in Machu Picchu is interesting. That's that semicircle one that only the priest supposedly went into at the top of the hill. And that one only lights up. It comes through the window, the trapezoidal window, exactly would be the equivalent of today, the winter solstice. So what's cool about that is, there it's June, obviously, because it's Southern Hemisphere. So it'd be June 21st approximately, right? Well, the thing is, if it missed it, like if it didn't line up that one time, then it's wrong. One of the weird things that I've found out looking into this a little bit was that if you're at the equator, right, and you're looking for that peak of whichever direction the sun is for the time of year, it's always going to be overhead. It's always 12 hours at the equator, the sunlight you get, right? But the sun's location will be at 66.56 degrees, right? The farthest it ever gets, right?
Get out.
Which is interesting, right? 66.56 degrees. Now, if you're at latitude 66.56 degrees, from that point of the year on, there's no sun, right? So that's the midnight sun in the northern hemisphere, and it'd be the equivalent down in Antarctica, right? 66.56 degrees. Well, if it's off and it misses that solstice lineup in the temple of the sun, who's to say it's not exactly 0.4 degrees off, right? How would you measure that? 0.04 degrees.
Well,
that'd
the
be
thing is,
in Bosnia, they have a pyramid, which is the Pyramid of the Sun is the name of it. It's covered by grass and stuff, and there are a lot of people out there that are just saying, "Oh no, there's not," But there's Dr. Osmanovic goes, and they found entrances. They go in, and it's there. It's probably one of the largest pyramids, if not the largest pyramid on the planet that we know about. And interestingly enough, Pyramid of the Sun, yeah.
Well, I just find this absolutely fascinating because I've always, we've heard about these secret societies over periods of time or whatever, and there's ones that we've heard about and ones that we don't know about, but I think it's interesting in the concept that, for example, if like say you were a part of one of these bloodline families, and they know that this happens, when it happens, maybe they can't pinpoint it exactamundo, like right on the very minute. Maybe they can, I don't know. But it seems to me you'd get some sort of a letter, or there'd be some servant that's paid to do this. That's all they do is wait for the day that they have to deliver this letter, if that day comes. Just like, they have a groom at the stool, somebody that wipes the queen's butt. Well, they also have somebody that's standing there waiting for this to get this phone call that the sun didn't line up, and because we were talking about it right before the show, Dr. Rho. What is it called when they track the sun? They take a picture of it every day at noon. It's called something. The day. What do you call it? The day curve?
The day arc.
Day arc.
Day arc.
Right.
There's a procession, but then there's the day arc.
Right. So let's say this day arc, it looks a certain way, right? But then all of a sudden it's different.
The path of the sun is a known path, right, throughout the sky. People can say, okay, the sun will go along this path, and it's predictable.
It is. And so when one day when that doesn't look right, something, that means you got X amount of time before this quote unquote reset happens. Now, what I've been finding interesting recently, especially over the past year or two, is a lot of these people are making these predictions with actual time frames. Like, we've got 13 years until we don't live, until we're gone, or whatever. The AOC thing, remember that? And then you had this other guy from France going, there's 795 days until climate change, or whatever. That's making me think, well, they know that it's going to be around 795 days because they see what's happening, and they know that means that the climate's going to start to degrade and weather's going to start to go wonkers because the magnetic field is about to shift. So they know all this stuff, and that's why these fools that get led into these meetings where they're explaining stuff You have people that are called dry snitches, where they snitch and they don't realize they're doing it. And these are these kind of stupid fools like AOC, who goes into a meeting and gets secret information and then goes out and doesn't realize she's not supposed to say it. Stuff like that. That's how stuff gets out. So
have you noticed that they seem to be like really doing shit like they don't give a shit, like, you know, just let's
right.
throw.
Yeah, they're doing it right in front of our face.
And we don't even care. You know, we're not going to be here, so we don't fucking care.
That's right, because they're all going back in their holes with all the gold, man. And they're going to come back out and re-raise another group of slaves on the plantation. Because humanity has not been given a chance to evolve to the place that we were before. Because these people keep taking control of it after it's over. We don't get a chance to come in here and grow naturally and find out what happened and da-da-da-da. No. We're literally retrained as slaves to come on back in here and be slaves on the plantation, the worldwide plantation.
I'll tell you what's interesting. They canceled the World Economic Forum this year.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's a sign.
Yeah. Have you guys heard this Irish priest's?
I have, yeah. We'll play that. I don't have a problem playing it. I'll tell you right now, it's scary, man. It's scary stuff. And I'll tell you what's scary about it too is that he keeps going, I get my people from high levels of military, send me this information. I'm getting from high levels from Russian and American military, blah blah, over and over again. Give it what you will. I'm always suspicious anytime somebody says they're a whistleblower or they got inside information. To me, I'm already looking for a grift, man.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I'm just saying, nobody's sneaking out and saying jack about anything that no one wants you to. If you're saying something about it in the public, it's because they're allowing that to happen. Isn't nobody?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Or you're trying to be, something, because there's information that if truly you're out there spreading information that is protected by classified statutes, you're going to jail.
Yeah, if you're in the military and
I'm going to get you and you're going to fucking jail.
You're going to jail, man. That's right. There's no question about it. So repopulation efforts, they begin with young people. Young people are the key to mastering the future, ladies and gentlemen. To get a hold of your young people is to get a hold of your future. Because the past is going to die off, man. It's going to die off quick. And, there's nobody left but the young people.
Every once in a while, people stumble upon things, though. Did you guys hear about that doctor that died after he came out and said that, some things in that, inoculation thingy? Basically, this guy he was a really well-renowned doctor in Germany and Czech Republic, in Eastern Europe for, his field, and exactly was the subject of his thing. And then, he came out as a whistleblower saying, hey, this stuff is going around and it's like little tiny razor blades, and then his girlfriend said that he was beat to death a couple days later after that speech. And you can get that speech and all the information on the internet.
Yeah, I did see some of that. All right, well, we'll get into this Irish dude when we come back from the break. All right, let's go out with a little bit more of this, though.
Babies, the tender treasures of humanity. We adore them, and we protect them. For 60 years, the March of Dimes has been our partner, keeping the perfect ones healthy and being a champion for the tiny, the weak, and the sick. But babies did not always have such champions. In ancient Greece, imperfect babies were thrown from a cliff. In Rome, they were put out to starve or be carried off by hungry animals. But even after infanticide was outlawed, babies still suffered from natural causes. Tetanus, smallpox, diphtheria, typhoid fever, and cholera. In Salem, Massachusetts in the 1600s, infant mortality was 313 per thousand, over 30 times the current rate. Infant life began to take on importance when, in the 1700s, concerned physicians made the novel argument that babies were human beings with a right to life and liberty.
Babies were human beings.
However, it was not until the late
Let's listen to that again.
However, it was not until the late 1800s that concerned physicians made the novel argument that babies were human beings.
Oh, babies are human beings. Interesting. And you know what's even more interesting? Is women were treated a certain way at this particular time, too. Yes, they were. Wow. History is so interesting. It's Aftermath FM, Santa Cruz band. Sublime. We'll be right back.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This story is a journey into the real underworld of our governing structures, told by a Navy SEAL, CIA contractor, and an initiate of the Pablo Mayumbi, one of the oldest and most precise blood magic systems on the planet, alleging to have come from Africa as far back as before the flood. The light of darkness is everything you wanted to know about power, evil, magic, murder, ritual, and sacrifice, as practiced by the ruling groups on this planet. Get your copy of The Light of Darkness, A Warrior's Tale for Our Time, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback and Kindle.
'Tis the season, and to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Nothing to see here, no
chose the wrong lane, leaving dust around. Have I deceived myself? Am I truly so? Oh,
It's Aftermath FM.
is this supposed to be? I don't know. These old ghosts are haunting me. Why won't they leave me? I am trapped by the powers that be.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. You'll find us here. Lots of information to get into. Let's check out this.
This is another one of my translations of the Spanish professor of history and theology, Damian Galeron. The title of this audio is Events to Come for 2021-2022. From now on, I will be warning people that what's coming is very hard, very, very hard. As I'm specialized in history, I will be commenting on events that are now affecting our world. I receive information from American and Russian intelligence agencies. They give me information so that I may give it out in my classes. The information I receive comes from the very highest level within these intelligence services than you can imagine. The information I now have concerns 3 processes that are going to happen. These 3 processes will be practically continuous. In other words, there will be hardly any break between them. The first one we will live through is a blackout. Suddenly we will be all at home reading or on the internet, and the light will go out. Even after 3 to 4 hours, will still not come back. This time the light will be out for months. There will be no electricity, no internet, no telephones. There will be nothing. There will be no distribution of foodstuffs. Everything will be paralyzed. Everything. There won't be any international flights. Cars won't work. Absolutely everything will be paralyzed. Everything. What is the purpose of all of this? Its purpose is to eliminate many millions of people. The global elites say there are too many people on Earth. In 3 years, they intend to eliminate.
What happens when the Great Reset happens? The power go out because the magnetic fields are not what they used to be. Positive is negative. Let's find out. Oh, man. What about this?
The battlefield will be Europe. It will be a Russian and Chinese alliance to destroy Europe and to attack the United States. It will be a thermonuclear war in which previously unknown weapons will be used, and they will use intercontinental ballistic missiles to kill 2,200 million people in 3 weeks. This is intelligence information. It is not my opinion. The war won't last long, but 50% of Europe will be exterminated. Countries like Holland, Belgium, a part of Georgia, Hungary and Romania will all disappear. A part of Germany and a large section of France will disappear. In 2 years, the US will lose 180 million people. Spain will lose 30 million. Mexico 50 million. Costa Rica will lose half its population. All these losses will happen in 2 years and are described in my last video on World War III, entitled Everything is in Code. The third process will be the impact of an asteroid on our Earth. On one of the first 15 days of the year. On one of the first 15 days of May. This asteroid is very possibly the warning or the illumination of conscience. This is the warning announced in Garabandal, very possibly. We won't talk now about the punishment, which is Planet X, which will be upon us in the year 2023 or 2024. I get information from astrophysicists and very high-ranking military personnel also. It's not that I'm very clever, but that I receive information from them, which I then pass on to you. I want to warn you that the blackout will be much more frightening and terrifying than World War III. This will be so because during the war, businesses will be open as long as the war is not on your doorstep. And you will be able to buy things and move around, at least to some degree. However, during the blackout, martial law will be imposed and you won't be able to leave your house, not even to walk the dog. If you do, you will be shot on the spot without explanations. Now, this may be slightly different in some countries. It may be a little bit easier in some places than in others. Hundreds of thousands of people will commit suicide because of this blackout. The next thing is the effect of the vaccine. This will be frightening. Also, while we are all in lockdown, they will release a virus which will be terrifying. This virus will account for the deaths of a large part of humanity. The third process is the impact of the asteroid. I will give you the technical details in case you wish to memorize them. It is 7 kilometers in diameter. The information I have from the astrophysicists is that when it enters our atmosphere, it will break up into 2 big parts. The slightly smaller part will impact in the Atlantic, quite near Florida. The other part will land in the Pacific Ocean. Using mathematical models, the expansive waves that they will generate will reach 9,000 kilometers across. Wherever these waves travel, nothing will be left standing, neither trees, nor houses, nor mountains, because they are going to be hills and mountains that will be totally washed away. What I'm saying is very hard, but I have privileged information, and it's only fair that you also should have this information. The technical details of this impact are absolutely frightening.
It's Aftermath FM. Listen to the microcosm.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine
machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind.
The Russian and Chinese alliance to destroy Europe and to attack the United States. It will be a thermonuclear war. Because it is now the center of a pagan, ecological and ecumenical religion. The Vatican is the biggest center, he says, of Satanism in the world. In the last 80 years, the physical structures of the church have been infiltrated by seminarians who were mostly homosexuals and members of the Communist Party, or else they were criminals. In the priesthood now you find all types of people, including criminals. In these last 80 years, thousands and thousands of these seminarians have infiltrated the church and been legally ordained, but they are not really true priests. They have permeated the physical structure.
When, in the 1700s, concerned physicians made the novel argument that babies were human beings with a right to life and liberty. However, it was not until the late 1800s that a concerted effort was made to save babies. Public health officials, alarmed by the rise in infant mortality caused by the Industrial Revolution, cleaned up crowded, dirty cities and improved the milk supply. Infant mortality began to decrease. New York City's rate in 1880 was 288 per thousand. By 1902, it was 160. A French obstetrician, Pierre Boudin, was the first to assemble the key elements of perinatal care. He promoted maternal breastfeeding, set up a program of infant care for Parisian mothers, and in the 1890s was a pioneer in the use of baby incubators. Boudin set the stage for strategies that would eventually be carried forward by the March of Dimes. To the surprise and shock of some, tiny babies became a popular attraction at fairs and exhibitions. Dr. Martin Cooney cared for 5,000 preemies. Some he displayed for a fee to offset the high cost of medical care. The turn of the century brought on a groundswell of interest in the health of babies. Well baby care was widely promoted, and healthy baby contests became the rage.
And unclear as to why the thousands upon thousands of orphanages, and again tied in with these baby incubators, and the shipping of orphans from country to country, really making no sense all through the historical narrative. Shipping orphans all over the place. And we really do see a repopulating. An effort to repopulate these fully built out cities found all throughout this realm. And of course, the inheriting of all of these buildings.
Early 1900s, my dad was an incubator baby in Coney Island. He was on display. They had just invented the incubator.
There's a fake womb on the screen. It's designed to replace the womb and pregnancy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're putting forward tonight here on Into the Microcosm, and I'm just saying, I mean, the more you look at this, the more you say to yourself, why and how did they build these buildings for the amount of people? Now, I want to ask you guys a question. Now, I was looking at the White Palace in Chicago. They said that 28 million people visited this World's Fair. Where did 28 million... I mean, 28 million people come into this one place at that time in the world. Literally, what are they coming on? Steamships. They're riding donkeys. I mean, they're literally, what are they doing? They're walking. How are they getting there? How did 28 million people show up in Chicago just to check out the World's Fair, man? Come on, man. Does that even sound realistic?
No, there was no Northwest Passage, was there, at that time? Was there?
You'd have to ask the journeyman on that one, man. He's the submariner. He would know. Journeyman.
There was. It was underwater. It was under ice. So yeah, couldn't get there. Yeah, so you'd have to come across the Great Lakes from Canada, or you'd have to go overland and take the train, right, to get there. I mean, you had to go all the way across country. Chicago's, wasn't no superhighway back then, So yeah, you had to go there on train, pretty much.
So how much?
And the population of the world was less than 1 billion people still, if I recall right. So
I guess you could go up the
it's
Mississippi.
a big chunk.
Right, you could go up the Mississippi River.
Yeah, you could take a steamboat.
Okay, so until this thing was happening, nobody was really moving around all that much. But then all of a sudden, 28 million people show up, and you're telling me they're riding on boats? Where did the boats come from? They just all of a sudden materialize out of nowhere to carry 28 million people?
I wish I would have been able to live a little bit back in the steamboats time, because I heard they were some party boats. The steamboats were like palaces on the water.
Remember that
Gambler, yeah.
Remember that show? Remember that show, The Wild Wild West? Remember that?
Yeah, all the gadgets that they had.
Yeah, with Robert Conrad. They were like 007s back in the day.
Yeah.
That was a good show, man.
Steampunk. They had that steampunk tag.
Oh man, that was a good show. Forgot about that show till just now. But no, I want you to really, ladies and gentlemen, conceptualize this, man. It's they're settling the old West, right? They're going, hey, there's a gold rush in California, man. And all these people are going out there, man. How'd they get there? Remember the Donner Party? Where'd all these people come from in San Francisco to build all that shit? It makes absolutely no sense. Who's building these houses? These houses are getting built, man. It's not like building houses today. It's not like there's just a bunch of 2x4s laying around down at Home Depot. Decide you want to build yourself a house. No, you got to cut down a tree, drag it out. I mean, literally, in the mountains of Santa Cruz, they used to drag redwoods out of here down the Highway 9. It cost 10 cents. I used to live in the toll house. Okay? It used to cost 10 cents to go through there with your wagon and take that tree, the giant tree, down to the ocean and put it on a boat so it could sail away somewhere and they could make boards out of it. It's not like there's just what we're used to, and the concept of us as modern people thinking back on history, we're going to take it in context with what we're doing today. We think, when you think of construction today, you just see the building go up, but you don't realize how many trucks showed up, how many guys were there. I mean, I've been on job sites. I was working on the MTA building in Los Angeles. This giant new MTA building. There is thousands of workers, dude. When you showed up in the morning, there was thousands of people, hard hat workers walking in there. This is a building at the level of the kind of buildings we're talking about right now that was being built in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. So, there was thousands of people, and these are craftsmen, trained craftsmen, that are just in Los Angeles by itself. They could show up there and do that work. Now, back when we're talking about, where did these craftsmen just come from? You're talking about dudes that are literally riding on the backs of horses and shit. Okay? Wagons with picks and axes and shovels. How are they building this stuff, man? It makes no sense. Especially San Francisco, man. Makes no sense. Oh, earthquake. Okay, dig it out. Yeah, there was an earthquake. Okay. In San Francisco. Uh-huh. The 1906 one. That's an earthquake. Big earthquake. We had to fix everything and dig it all out. Huh, Mr. Makes sense, though, doesn't it? And I was thinking to myself, why would there always be these wars? Why would they have the wars? Why would they want to kill off a bunch of people ahead of time when they know that this reset thing's going to happen? They don't have to go out of their way to kill people off. Why would they do it? Well,
they need an excuse for why all those people died, right?
That's right.
You need to look at the chat there to get a chance to break there, Jimmy. There's some conversation going on you'd be interested in.
Okay.
And listen.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing with the people that the numbers we're talking about, 28 million people back in 1890s, right, getting up to Chicago. That's a lot of people, man. It is. I mean, sure, yeah. There's how many people live there? A couple 100,000. They go there at the time, right? I mean, it's not a 1 million person city yet. So that means all these people have to come across, overland in the train, have to, come across the oceans from around the world. There's no planes, right? They have to come up the river on the boat. I mean, that's a phenomenal number. And even in 1939 at the New York one, where the guy was talking about his dad being in the being the incubator baby on display at the fair, and how it was a tourist attraction to go see these cute little babies, like seeing monkeys at the zoo. I mean, basically that's what they're saying, right? I mean, they had to pay to come see them. I mean, that's horrific. Actually, put it in today's way of looking at things, that they would actually keep these babies like almost like they're just an exhibit, these babies. So how many of those babies died? Did anybody ever look into that? I wonder, and where'd they all come from? That's the other thing. Thousands, right? So, yeah, not a very.
It could be that people have been getting abducted for whatever reason, and those are just, I don't know. I mean, what's your theory? What do you think?
What I'm starting to think is that there's been a reserve of the people who are going to take over when the shit hits the fan, pardon the pun, for a long time, and there continues to be, and that these people that were brought in on the orphan train were all raised that way, and that it's been a sense of continuity of government with the United States, right? It's the same kind of thing with continuity of knowledge, that these people that they when they go and have them recite this poetry and see how intelligent they are and how well read they are, it's a demonstration of their mental prowess. They were taught from the time they were practically born, right? So when Jimmy linked that 8th grade test that people can't pass today, these people not only had that, but they had way more. Just like you look at somebody like Morton Stanley, who grew up in an orphanage, right, and ended up looking for Dr. Livingston, Dr. David Livingston. David Livingston grew up in a seamstress. His mom was a seamstress, so it was a textile factory as a kid, sewing when he was from the time he was 6, right? And by the time he was 8, he was able to speak several languages. He was fluent and all that stuff. Somehow on pennies, literally a penny a day or something, was able to go to university and get a degree. Figure that one out, right? And then ends up in Africa and learns all those languages, the native tongues of Africa. Not possible for a normal person. This guy was an adept. I mean, truly an adept. And the backstory is precisely that, a backstory.
It's absolutely crazy. What do you think? I know, obviously, when I see buildings in India, I see buildings in Africa, I see buildings all over the place that are absolutely following the same trend in their architecture, yet it makes absolutely no sense for that type of architecture to be in the places that it is based on the people that live there. So it's absolutely out of place, but it's consistent all over the world. Now, Epic, did you take wait a minute. Damn it. It's the top of the hour. We're going to have to go to that.
Yep.
Yeah, to go to that break. Hey, sorry, Chad. Listen, everybody. My cell phone got destroyed, and I haven't got it replaced yet. And my password for that email account is on that phone. Yeah, I know there's things I can do.
How did it get destroyed?
Super complicated, man. How did it get destroyed? I don't know, man. I mean, honestly, it was broke. It was broken for a while, but the cell phone itself was about to be too old. It was about to, because the network that I'm on was going to change. They were moving from 4G to 5G.
Yeah, they're phasing it out.
Yeah, they phased it out. So it got phased out. So it's here. It won't boot up though. And it was funny too, because when I tried to boot it up, I tried literally for 3 days to boot it up, and it wouldn't boot up. But it was funny because right before that, I got a bunch of Chinese language and a menu, and it was interesting. The cell phone is nothing you've ever even heard of either. It's funny. All right, well, listen, we got to hit that break. So that's why I haven't gotten back to you, Chad. If you tried to send me a message, and if you have helped out and made a donation, ladies and gentlemen, I just haven't gotten the email. So the only way I can know is if I go to the ATM and look, because I can't get my email where I get my notifications. So like I said, apologize if you've donated to the show and made a contribution. And you can find my PayPal over on In the Microcosm Jimmy Gene Strike Zone if you'd like to make a contribution. And we could really use it right now, having some issues going on here. So anyways, point being, Chad, sorry about that if I didn't get your email. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate it. Thanks, Samantha. Really appreciate you guys making contributions. And if you want my PayPal, Into the Microcosm Jimmy Gene Strike Zone, you come over there in the chat room and I'll give it to you. Thanks again, and we'll be right back. I got the blues, man. I'm singing the blues.
Baby, I've been played for a fool. Good love is gone by, baby. Girl, I've been played for a fool. I'm turning the tables on you. Sweetheart, you've been playing dirty pool. You said you called the shots the last time, baby.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
'Tis the season, and to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades beguiles all concepts of our reality. After 23 years, John has finally told his whole story. The story of Stardust Ranch transcends its geography and John and Joyce Edmonds themselves. It becomes a story for the human race at a very important time in our journey as people on this planet. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle.
Monday through Friday, exclusively here. Aftermath FM is our home. This is Dave Meniketti, Bay Area boy.
I couldn't sleep last night when I thought I heard you knock on my door.
Man, you hear a knock on the door, and it's the CPS. They said, we didn't see you down at the vaccination station. I'm afraid we're gonna have to have a little talk with your children. See, Bobby, I don't know what happened to your parents, Bobby, but we have this nice train here. It's going out to the farm. Yeah. Remember when Mommy and Daddy had to take your little puppy out to live on the farm? Well, we're gonna take you out to the farm on this nice train. Here, just get on the train. It's all good. Nothing like a little guitar playing in the middle of the night. Get my juices flowing. Epic Journeyman, Dr. Rho, are your juices flowing? I think your juices may be flowing. Am I still on the phone? Hello? Is this thing on? Is anybody there? Epic Journeyman, you're muted up. And I don't see Mr. Rho. Is he there?
I'm here.
Oh, dude, there you are.
The stupid taskbar.
You guys were
raised
rocking, huh,
because I had a
weren't you?
message. Yeah, and it blocked the microphone button.
I think Mr. Rho put on his Ray-Bans, and then he was leaning back and forgot he was even on the air.
Yeah.
What the hell were we talking about again? Oh, yeah, that's right. These
Orphan trains and the end of the world and the reset.
Well, yeah,
So what about all these people in the last little bit we got here about that just disappeared? You know, like we talk about the Mayans, they just disappeared. One day they just up and left, right? Supposedly disappeared. Or the Clovis people in America, they were all over here, all over the place. They have the Clovis culture, and they made the spear-assisted things and hunted the mammoths, did all that stuff. They just disappeared. One day, just completely gone. Yep, right.
Maybe they were harvested.
Yeah, I mean the whole cultures. The people in Turkey that built Göbekli Tepe, where'd they go? Completely gone, disappeared. Right.
The Anasazi people, where did they go?
Yeah. Whole cultures of people just disappeared all at once, completely gone. So, you know, I mean, there's remnants of people once Mayans, but the Mayan people themselves, the culture, completely vanished, like almost overnight.
Maybe a lot of the hidden history are pointers to, like what some of us suspect that maybe there was some sort of deluge that was very recent. And one of the reasons that they do want to keep that a secret is because if we do too much research into it, we'll find out that it's cyclic, that it happens on a regular basis. And if possibly too many of the general populace found out that, let's say, it happens on a basis of every 3 or 4 centuries, that it's quite recent and quite soon, and now we're ready for this whatever reset deluge to happen again that's rather destructive, that could cause a lot of people to, well, panic or, otherwise just not care because, hey, everything's just going to crap anyway. The world's going to end and we're all going to die. So what's the point? So I could understand if that was the case, why they would want to keep it under wraps, so to speak. Too many people saying fuck it, taking a pill called fuckatol. I'm going to take some of that and just, have a party. I mean, what the hell? So, yeah, the world would just be like, poof.
Yeah, well, I'm with you there because that's exactly what would happen. Just the reason that they say they would never tell you if an asteroid was coming in because they don't want you running around doing that all.
Right.
Knowing that that's going to happen. They want you to be caught by surprise, unawares, and,
So let me ask you guys, all the listeners and everybody here, what would you change your day-to-day activities and stuff if you found out that something was going to happen within, let's say, a couple weeks?
Well, a little bit, yeah. I'd make sure I had more. I have food stocked up now, but I'd have more and be ready to, move
into an underground cave.
No, lava tube. No, here in Hawaii.
Well,
but yeah, no, just be able to reboot. I have that already. Like most people have a bug out bag. A lot of people do, and mine is kind of on the premise of being rebooting from scratch, right? So I have like an old iPhone 4, it has all kinds of books and stuff on there, and it's put that thing in a bag, basically keep it immune from solar radiation and coronal mass ejections, that kind of thing, and you don't have a solar charger, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, you need to have something. I mean, for if you go, you could pass on to the next. We can't etch things in stone like they used to. I mean, that's what they did after all.
Now, let me ask you another question. Does it feel that way? Does it feel like things are about to really get heavy?
It does to me.
I mean, is there sort of an impending feeling of, well, for lack of a better descriptor, doom? I mean, I gotta admit, there is.
There is, man. There's something that's seems to be hanging over everything, and there's some things that are going on.
Something imminent that's coming.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, just what's going on in front of your face in public that these people used to do in the background and hiding. That all of a sudden they're just doing it right in front of your face. And it just has this feeling, like, for example, they say, oh, the supply chain is broken or whatever, da-da-da-da. Yeah, the supply chain's broken because all the world's supplies are going down into a hole right now somewhere, okay, for everybody to live on, while everybody else up here goes when the 600-mile winds come and blow your house down.
Now, so the Irish priest described the blackout that I guess a EMP, electromagnetic pulse, would be the only thing that I can think of that would make cars inoperable as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said everything, absolutely everything. It's one thing to shut your power off. It's another thing that your batteries won't work.
Right.
That disrupts absolute communication and brings us back to, pretty much Stone Age almost. I mean, if you don't have any comms outside of smoke signals, you don't even have a telegraph, no radios, nothing.
That's what we were saying the other night, man, was that if something happened right now where the power went out, whatever you know is all that there is. In other words, books, all that, if there's no history anymore. There's only this scattered people, scattered and broken all around. There's no real groups of mega groups where, I mean, all you're depending on that there be libraries. But the thing is, what I noticed is that, everything that was built after the old world architecture seems to be really using a lot of wood everywhere. Houses are made out of wood. You see these things that they call cathedrals. Go look at what you were sitting on in the cathedral, in those pews and shit. Those wooden benches. Go look at what they call a train station that they built into they say was a train station. Go look at it and ask yourself, look around that building and ask yourself if those benches that you're sitting on look like they were made by the same people who made that building.
Yeah, imagine right now, if the power went out and you didn't even have your flashlights, all you had would be fire, your candles, and then, things start getting quiet, things start getting cold, and then the realization, if you're in the cities, that there's a lot of other people sitting in the quiet, cold, dark as well. And the longer the time goes, I mean, that's hey, I mean, what do you do? Do you just sit and wait? I think a lot of people would sit and wait for a little while. How long do they wait? Till they run out of food?
Till it's too late.
Will there be roving bands? Would people get together and say, hey, let's run around in the dark?
Well, one of the things that I noticed in every single one of the major cities on Earth, every single one of them, without exception, there are catacombs upon catacombs underneath these cities. There's tunnels.
Yeah.
There's places where there's bones, man, and skulls stacked to the rafters. Now, why are these bones in there? Why are they one of the interesting things about these bones, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been in the catacombs in Paris. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, maybe you can talk about some of this. You've actually visually seen what I'm about to say.
And I've been in the tunnels under San Francisco. Right back to you.
Okay, so great, excellent. So listen, what I noticed and what was brought to my attention was that these bones that were stacked so neatly, each kind, leg bone, all the bones were stacked. But what there was interesting was there was no meat on the bones. In other words, the bones appeared to have been boiled. Now, I'm bringing that up because if you were to have to live, say, underground for a period of time, right, not only are people going to die, but you're going to need to eat something. I mean, I'm just saying. Maybe people got eaten. You know, it was man corn down there. It was man corn barbecue. There's nothing to eat. You know, they need to eat something. So they're making stew down there out of some of them people.
Long ham.
Long ham, exactly. So, it's terrifying, man, to think about it. But you got to ask yourself, you're always hearing, you know, oh, they want to kill us and all this. Really? Man, if they wanted to kill you, don't you think how easy it would be? It's not even... They wanted to kill everybody on Earth. They could have something they could just release, and that'd be it.
I think it's multifaceted. One facet of it is incubation. Another facet is hybridization, experimentation, and also, what was I going to say? That there is a method that they demonstrated on a chicken a few years ago where they injected this chicken with a substance that worked on the chicken's deoxyribonucleic acid, and it changed it just, you know, bit by bit into some sort of carbon resource, where the chicken eventually died. But what was left was this transformation into this substance that they said was worth more than diamonds, because it was the transformation on the DNA level into this, you know, specialized carbon resource. And so what if, you know, that one of the goals is to use people as resources? I mean, the Matrix talks about using
honestly,
people's battery.
I think the human race, us regular folk,
Human resources.
We're resources. We're human resources. In other words, we're just like rats, man. We're just like the experiment, Universe 25. We're exactly like that. People, and the thing is that the people that are in a position of being bloodlines that continue on after these resets happen, they all know what human potential is. But the thing is they keep us, they keep us barefoot and pregnant. In other words,
see, in the galactic continuum, or the local group of sentient star communities, we are the North Korea.
Yeah, I'm just saying, they raised a bunch of slaves, man. Look at it. They repopulated these cities with children, okay? And then they taught them at a certain level and kept them at a certain level. The first ones, like we said, the ones they were sending out to the Midwest and those schools out there, those schools, they were actually teaching them something. They needed them to be they needed to have a certain
They need to be the workforce for, like, making the great breadbasket of America that would become.
Because that was called like a wasteland.
So they needed the manpower, they needed the loyalty, and the bonding of a family unit that would bring that, you know, to bring this strength. They knew what they were doing. Now they don't need that anymore.
They needed the collective intelligence of those young people to help be the energy to rebuild the nation.
Yeah, the spark of new life into that.
Yeah, to take some of these, and and that turned on the independent spirit in a lot of people, and I'm sure lots of people made discoveries.
Also, future soldiers for the army.
Exactly.
Work around the house and the farm for a while, and then when they get old enough, they sign up for the draft, and we need them.
There was no such thing as abortions back then either. I mean,
meanwhile, you were encouraged to have more children.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw this thing where this woman was celebrating her anniversary, which was the anniversary of her abortion. She made a little shrine and stuff. I mean, she put all this effort into literally celebrating the anniversary of killing her unborn child. Back to you.
Well, that in and of itself, I mean, I support a woman's right to be in charge of her own life.
Oh, absolutely.
My
Me too.
mom was a single mom at a time when being a single mom wasn't okay. So my mom could have gotten an abortion, okay, but I wouldn't be here now. She didn't, though. She stuck it out. She was a single mom. She worked 3 fucking jobs or whatever her whole life or whatever. You know,
I believe that whatever entity spirit was going to enter the unborn shell, which is the human body, which would become the symbiont, which is the being that lives on this earth for 90 whatever years, that spirit soul would find another vessel.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it would have been possible for us to evolve to the point that we were building those buildings? That we were the old world's equivalent to rebuilding the civilization that was here from before, where money probably didn't have the matter that it does here.
We still can't rebuild some of that stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to rebuild the pyramids. We still can't do that. How come we can't? You would think that's the simplest thing. Like it's made out of stone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what else? This is nothing else. It's just made out of rocks, and you can't do that. It's a simple shape. Do it. Nope, can't do it somehow.
Yeah, do it.
That guy that did this
do
stuff.
it and astronomically align it with the stars.
The Coral Castle guy, now he knew something.
Yeah, the Coral Castle dude is interesting. I think there's a bit of hocus pocus going on there, myself. But I mean,
hey, he made that castle, man.
He did do that. I mean, he did do that. Listen,
They claim he did it with car batteries, 6-volt car batteries, and winches and stuff. He charged them during the day, and that's why I worked at night.
Hey, all I can say about moving big stuff without cranes is, have you ever seen somebody sing so at such a tone, at such a volume that it shatters glass?
Yes, the Tibetans used horns to change the molecular density of stone, and they could levitate rock. They use these large horns to do that, and it's a lot of tonal stuff. Yeah, the vibrational energies of sound.
So I think we've determined, without the shadow of a doubt, that there is no evolution. There's only revolution. We just go round and round and round we go. We're at the bottom of the hour, man. We'll be right back. It's Aftermath FM's in the microcosm. It's the wild ride with Dr. Rho, and it is every time he shows up. And today he was all up in his sled. He came up in here. That's what we used to call our cars back in the day. It's like, where's your sled, homie? But we're gonna keep our sled here for the next 30 minutes. If you're catching this on replay, you can find the rest of it anywhere you find podcasts. It's Aftermath FM. I'm Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. Be right back. These are the same child traffickers that happened today. Epstein, he's just a head of a franchise like McDonald's. Billions served. And if you're looking for a blackout, look for about 10 minutes before Ghislaine Maxwell starts spilling her guts.
Feels like every day
And to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Last time she touched me, I set a course forever. Midnight flight. There she tried to tell me that she comes from the grave. Such a sight. Stay away, your hands are cold. Frigid lips, evil soul. Yeah. She's a deceiver, disbeliever, inconceiver.
Monday through Friday, you'll find us. The Great Reset. I was trying to find this. Rio was in the chat earlier, and he dug this thing up for me because we did a show where we included some of it, and that was that there was a conference that went on that was 10 hours long, and it was from around the world. People were making contributions, and this whole thing was how to rebuild society after the Great Reset. And it was talking about jobs in the future and how if you're making $20 an hour or less, that your job is going to be now done by a robot. And so
Was it Davos conference?
it wasn't Davos, man, but the thing about it was, and what was so weird about it, was I read the guy's opening statement that it was put into the video, and it gave like 10 bullet points. And literally, if I could find it right now and I could bring it to the table, I would. I tried while you guys were talking earlier, but I couldn't get it because it was back so far in the chat with Rio that I just couldn't find it. But the point is it was literally talking about starting civilization back from scratch. Now, I want to point out that in this video, they had a video within the presentation that they were showing to all the participants from around the world about the future. It was this video that they made a production out of it. And so when the video starts, it's an alarm clock, right? Now, they're talking about 2022 and beyond. Okay, so this alarm clock goes off. The alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. on January 2nd. 6 a.m. January 2nd. I put in there the 2022. So to me, it looks like they were letting me know in that video that at 6 a.m. on January 22nd, there's going to be something going on that's going to cause that Great Reset. So now we've seen all this stuff, all these abstract points. You see this time traveler that people say is fake from Spain, from 24, 48, 52 or some shit. But he's saying that this Christmas is this moment in time where it's going to change humanity forever, and that's why he came back in time for this moment. You have this thing called the warning about this prophecy. You've got the weakening magnetic field, and all these things are coming together. You see this activity and with the weather and these tornadoes and all this stuff going on, man. Something's going on with the weather. It's magnetic. It's the magnetic field. It's the weakening. It's the moment of clarity. It's the moment of ascension. People are moving from the fourth dimension to the fifth dimension. There's two timelines going on at the same time. And however you think is where you're going to be at that particular moment when that time frame happens, you'll go into the next dimension. I mean, there's all this stuff going on. It's all coming to a head at this exact same moment. Okay? The world, have you ever seen the egg where it takes the temperature of the world? And just like at 9/11, there was all these random number generators that the vibe, the whole intense vibe of the planet was causing these random number generators to generate these, sequences. Well, they have something like that now, and it's called an egg. It's like an egg, and it basically it goes colored by the emotional tension that goes around the planet. Based on whatever stresses are happening at the time. The emotional egg of the planet, believe it or not. So I'm just saying, you were saying you feel like something's coming. Epic, you feel like something's coming. Everyone feels like something's coming. Could this just be, they say in our DNA that when this happened originally, it's in every DNA of every man, woman, and child ever born on the planet from that time forward remembers that thing that happens?
It's like a bell ringing, yeah.
Well, is the bell ringing right now? I mean, are we at the moment?
Yeah,
we're at the precipice.
It started ringing in 2017.
Yeah. Well, don't you feel like we're at the precipice of the Great Reset?
Oh, definitely.
Well, what do you think the Great Reset is? Everybody thinks it's going to be something, but, I mean, that guy was wearing a pretty weird uniform, Klaus Schwab. You see that uniform he's wearing? He looked like he was coming from outer space or something.
Yeah, it's that religion. What's it called? Not EAI, whatever it is. Yeah, New Age religion.
Baha'i.
Baha'i. Thank you, Baha'i.
Baha'i.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of those.
That's what all the symbols are.
Mm-hmm. Baha'i schools. They're all over the place. It's a good place supposedly to send your kid to school. Baha'i schools. But
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know. I don't have any.
There's junior Baha'i school in Baha'i school.
I tell you what, you couldn't graduate from the 8th grade. I'm telling you right now with that test. I dropped it in the chat in the microcosm Jimmy G Strike Zone. I'll do it again here in a minute. But I don't know, man. To me, this seems like repopulation after a great event, and I don't think that this same group of humans it came from monkeys. You know what I mean? Obviously, simply because we didn't evolve from monkeys. But I mean, whatever you're gonna do, if you look at it, every single thing that's ever come out, Darwin, Freud, all these people, they're in the same group, man. It's like, hey, which one of you guys is a psychologist? Freud and a couple of guys raise their hand. Like, okay, you, Freud, come here. You didn't do anything last time. This time you're gonna be the guy. Yeah.
Right. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah,
exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. Dude.
And what cracks me up is it doesn't crack me up, but it bothers me. But I do look at what they're doing today with technology, and maybe they didn't do this before. And it's this DNA sampling of the entire population. I mean, whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally, you're giving up your DNA, right? And this time, it just seems to me like they have the seed vault up there, in the northern hemisphere, by Norway there, that they're going to have this vault of our DNA to reboot society for the best and brightest of us. Right?
There you go.
Basically, right there.
There you go.
Tiny little.
And didn't they just come up with a thing too, where they got this doomsday monolith that's recording everything on the internet right now, and when it goes off, it'll stay there by itself.
There's something they got. It's called the Earth's black box.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and Klaus Schwab also has this young global leaders school where like people like Zuckerberg and a few folks from CNN and other heads of state are all from this, young global leaders club. It's the next generation, because those folks will eventually get old, so they have to have the next group.
Yeah, they're the dudes wearing the stovepipe hats. The last time when they went underground, they were kids. They came back out. They all had those stovepipe hats, and they're all standing there with their hand inside their vest with the hidden hand, pointing, making all the slave children go do what they were told. I mean, it's so obvious. Listen, I got something here. Check this out, man. This is a guy that was on the train.
The train to a new home. Stanley's father, a World War I veteran, had health problems associated with his wartime.
Here, Bobby, your daddy had health issues.
Mustard gas exposure. After his wife died of tuberculosis in 1924, Floyd Cornell was unable to properly care for Stanley, Stanley's younger brother Victor, and sister Eloise. Stanley was a few months shy of his 5th birthday when his mother, Lottie, died. He still remembers how she cried out for her children near the end.
She was crying out for her children, all right, because they were taking them away, man.
Was in her room crying and hollering and wanting. She said, "Stan, Vic, please come see me," and crying, night and day practically. We put this, and the window was up so high, about there on up. Down below is not. I got the wagon up there, and then there's an orange crate that I set inside of the wagon so I could climb up to the window and get in the window, because the door was locked to her room.
He believes his relatives may have tried to keep him away from his mother because tuberculosis is contagious.
Your mommy has tuberculosis, Bobby. I'm sorry. You can't go in there. You're just going to have to come out here and get on this train.
As a young boy, however, he didn't understand.
I crawled up in there, out to inside the window, and I helped my brother up. Then we both went over to her bed, and she held her hand and was crying. And I don't remember what she had to say, because I was too young, I think, and also she was crying so. But I think what she told us, she knew she was dying.
After his mother died, he sometimes felt like no one was looking after them, especially as his father tried to work while struggling with his own health problems.
2 ladies came out in a big limousine to us. It looked like a big, and we didn't have a car, of course, but it looked like a big limousine. And they come in and talk to Dad, and then they talk to us and ask us if we was happy. And I can remember saying, "Not really, no, not really." I didn't want to complain, but that was true, because we weren't too happy.
The boys were taken by the Children's Aid Society, while an aunt took in their younger sister, then a toddler. At the orphanage, children were separated by gender. Even on the playground, a tall brick wall separated the boys from the girls.
My brother and I was separated when we was in there for those 6 months, but in between the houses, they had about 15 feet of chicken wire so that we could get together. And every day at noon, Vic would come from his side, and I'd meet him down front, and we'd talk through the fence.
The children were given sparse and simple meals, milk, bread, or soup. Occasionally, they were given a piece of fruit.
Please, sir, can I have some more? Remember that? Please, sir, can I have some more? More!
Please, sir.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
God bless us, everyone. You too, Tiny Tim.
More? You want more?
Oliver Twist, yeah.
Yeah, and those kids were running wild down there with Fagin, man, lifting wallets.
That's exactly what we're talking about, where he got all those orphans and put them together and made a gang out of them. Yep.
Man, look, there's nothing. This is like taking candy from a baby, literally. I mean, this is a no-brainer. You got 250,000 people you're repopulating an area with that are all kids. I mean, you have some adults there, right? Obviously. There has to be some. But for the most part, I mean, it's interesting, too, in this dynamic where kids grow up in this kind of a dynamic where they're all together like this. It's hard to really put into words, but there's a lot that goes on in this kind of a group dynamic that wouldn't happen normally. And there's a lot of ways that, and like we said before, I mean, even moving into the modern day, when you get down to the Boys Town and you see guys like Manson, he was one of these orphans. See, so when this group of people here, out of these, there's some real smart ones. And so it's out of those real smart ones, they pick to train and utilize in whatever way they deem necessary or appropriate for whatever thing they're going to do. You know, it's like that. But, you know, it's intense, man. And, you know, there's more to this, too, because, you know, not only, they didn't just stop doing this either. They kept going. They do the same. And, you know, a lot of these orphans, and they end up in these orphanages, well, there's a lot of, there's evidence to suggest that, you know, there's been experiments done on these orphans, because obviously they don't have anybody who cares about them. How are they going to know? Who's going to know? Who's going to care? Same thing like puppies, only real people. And, you know, I hear that this RFK Jr. character has come out and said that Fauci has been directly associated with some of this experimentation that had gone on with some of these orphans in the past. So I haven't personally seen the information. I haven't seen it, so I can't verify it. So until then, it's just a rumor. But we're going to be looking more into this, man, because the more I see these orphans everywhere, and I'm starting to see these organizations that I'm starting to wonder about that have been going all around the world all these years, you know, helping all these orphans. It's starting to look a little funny, man. I mean, there's even accusations. There's accusations made about Mother Teresa around this thing. So, man, this is like the most heinous thing I think I've ever come across. These orphans, man. And really, what's so harsh about it is there's nobody that cares about them. Nobody even knows they exist. You look back in history, you see what went on, and you see that you always thought it was going on in other places, but it's kind of scary to find out it was going right here in front of you, in front of American people. It's been happening here the whole time. And until the unions came in and stopped it, man, these kids were working 16 hours a day in these sweatshops, man. Just like what we accuse China of doing now, we did the same exact thing.
How about the idea all those ghost cities in China are orphan cities?
Get ready to populate them with some orphans?
Yeah.
You could. Just exterminate everybody else and start fresh. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Getting control of them children is the most important thing, because it holds the key to the future. And, you know, they used to sit there and program you for 20 years before you were ready to accept philosophical or political ideologies. But it's to the point now where they get them younger and younger, and they're programmed before they're even 10 years old at this point. So you might even not even know who your child is and what they think, because you don't know what they're being taught every day in the schools. And, you know, so I don't know, man. It's a system that's broken, man. You know, the state shouldn't be training your kids. If you're going to let the state train them, you might as well have the corporations train them. At least then they'll be trained for the jobs of the future, you know, instead of be standing there with
Joe Manchin's coal mine.
15 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt, man. So there's nothing wrong with raising a bunch of slaves on a land of the free, home of the slave, right? Because, I mean, really, you come here, you're born, and all you're here to do is work your whole life at some job to, you know, make some widget for some company so they could sell it for, you know, more than you can afford to even buy it with, because you don't make enough money to even buy it. And that's a big problem. I mean, Henry Ford said that was the problem. If my workers on my assembly line can't buy my car, my business is over. So have we reached the saturation point? Have they made enough money? This is the point where they don't care. They can just cut off a whole segment of the population because you haven't been vaccinated. You can't go to the store anymore. They don't need your money. They're like, fuck you. We don't need your money. It's like you go into a store right now and got a problem with customer service. Go talk to the manager. He'll go, fuck you. Dude, there's 200 people standing right behind you. I don't need your business. Don't come back. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. That's what they'll say. I don't know, man. What you gonna do? All you got control over is yourself in this point, and really that's all we really have. But I mean, this history, it's a lie, man. Top to bottom, we've been started at a certain point and we just go roundy. Do the same thing over and over again. Because you know why? Because it's just like the mice in Universe 25. They watched the mice. They saw what they do up to a certain point, and then they went extinct because they got to a certain point, and then they went extinct. Well, I mean, obviously human beings probably do the same thing, and especially if you start them off, because we're monkey see, monkey do. We don't know what to do. We do what everybody else does. We watch TV. We do what that guy does. Our parents. We see what they do. We do what they do. We imitate. Because when we're born, we don't know what to do. So there it is. We imitate and then we regurgitate, because that's what we've been taught. We don't get a chance to expand our minds to grow and evolve, because what do? They capture our imagination with a seductive character. They divert our attention and utilize our energy to create their intention. And entertainment, entrainment. Frequency is everything, Can you vibrate at the apathetic frequency? Get apathetic. Just sit in your house and say, fuck it, man. Doesn't matter anymore. Don't do it. You got to stay alive, don't you? Epic Journeyman, Dr. Rho. You got to keep living, don't you? One day at a time, one step in front of the other. You never know.
As here the PGs, rather. Staying alive.
Don't quit. Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens, man. You know what I mean? So, this is a dark story, obviously. There's a lot of people that have done a lot of research on this subject. There's untold thousands of hours that you can go entertain yourself on the subject of this whole ancient technology, antiquitech, the earth as a motherboard. Who were the builders? Who are the architects of the golden mean? Who are the architects? Who are the people that can bring down the walls of Jericho with vibration? Who are the people who made the covenant to get the power of the ark? These are the questions, man, that need answers. And we'll be back tomorrow night with the Doc McCarran. And we're going to get into some more. I think he may be coming in with some of that information on the Fauci orphan thing. Dr. Rho, are you going to be doing your Thursday gig, Studio B?
I don't know. It's close to Christmas. We may or may not. We'll see.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it. It's been a really interesting conversation.
All right. Ciao, ciao, everybody.
See ya. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Rocket Rio is going to be here on Wednesday night. He did some reverse speech on somebody who's in the news right now, and it's Alec Baldwin, and apparently there's Rio found quite a bit of stuff. So that'll be happening Wednesday night, I think, is the night. That's
Nice.
gonna happen, yeah. So
Hopefully booted up the headset over there finally.
Did
They
he?
just did a big. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to get. He didn't answer in the chat. The big screen had an update today. Had a big update.
Oh, it
Pun
did?
intended for big screen. Yeah.
Nice.
So make sure you download that.
All right. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here, man. We really appreciate you. And if you helped out over here, if you helped out with a contribution to the show, really helped out. Just going through some stuff here, having some issues, and I don't like to ask, you know. And so if you did, I appreciate it very, very much. And we'll see you tomorrow night, eh? Take care of yourselves, okay? I'll see you tomorrow, Big Journeyman. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
When the legs of titans split up in endless sound, for their existence was vital from the very start. Many different
All right, well, it's winter, Epic Journeyman.
It is.
There you go. Saturnalia. What's that?
369. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're out of here. Here we go. See you guys later, eh?
sometimes you should go